I guess the biggest thing is to take away from that is just try to listen to the knowledge of every uncle, every dad. Just sit there and just stare at them, listen to what they have to say. Because like if you don't know that question, you'll never find the right question to ask. But eventually you'll find the answer just by paying attention to other people's histories and experiences and, shoving sticks and hot dogs.
Yeah. It's up to you.
Yeah. It was Brian Hynes for a long time now. Every phone is just Brian Borderline. So it doesn't matter.
Sweet. Welcome to the MNO Show with Brian Hynes from Borderline.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Welcome.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
We'll have...
There we go.
All right. Well, I usually start this with a question, and
Okay.
we were just talking, and I just have to ask the question. So, like, you hit a nerve with me on the hockey thing. When did you start playing hockey?
One of my first memories is skating. Like I remember skating around this pond that we lived on. It was more of a lake.
Hold on a second.
back east.
John, in cold weather,
Okay.
the water freezes over, and we have ponds and we have lakes.
Oh, all right.
The small lakes are actually called ponds, and they actually freeze enough where we can actually skate on them.
Don't listen to him. That's not even true. No, that's true.
And you shovel them.
Yep.
You go out, you shovel, your friends shovel, and you hopefully make it big enough to skate on, but also like pack the snow well enough so the puck
stops.
stops.
So you're not
Doesn't-
like, okay, who's chasing it this time?
Right,
Is that where the
exactly.
saying comes when the puck stops here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would assume.
Yeah.
It's actually the buck, I believe.
Yeah. I've
But-
seen the puck stops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here in California, we use little balls, and
Yeah.
then they go down the hill, and whoever
Yeah, you're
messed
screwed.
up last time was like, see you later.
Those little orange balls.
Yeah,
They
those little
sting.
orange balls. Oh, yeah, if you freeze them, it's bad. Bad.
So you grew up in New York.
I grew up in New York, New Jersey. Yeah,
Okay.
back east. Born in New York. Remember everything from Manhattan, and then we spent so much time in Jersey that's kind of your memories just kind of start to merge. So yeah,
So when did you come out to Southern California?
it was in '86. I was 6 years old, and then my father got a job out here in California. And as you would go back and forth, back then it was part of your perks were flights back east or flight back and forth. So when I would fall asleep in the car going to Grandma's house, I'd wake up thrilled to be at Grandma's house and didn't know there was a 5-hour flight in between. So it was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. So yeah, we ended up back there. Then I settled here about '94.
Okay.
So we really
So where
settled.
did you play hockey when you got here?
Isoplex. I played a lot of roller hockey.
Okay.
Was goalie, forward, whatever. Then when I found Isoplex for ice hockey, I was like,
Goalie
here
and
we go.
forward.
Oh yeah, didn't matter. They just put me out there.
All right.
Yep.
That's
Normally goalie if we didn't have all the pads. I was dumb enough to do that.
And then did you what part of the area do you live now? Like out this
I grew up in
direction?
Agora.
Okay,
so I
you
was
grew up in
Hill.
Agora.
Yeah, I live out in Thousand Oaks now. But I grew up in Agora since I think '86 to like 2007, 2009, something like that. We were there. Yep.
And then when did the whole Borderline idea come out, and like how did you go from growing up in Agora to like opening up Borderline?
So Borderline actually opened in Malibu on Trancas Canyon and PCH. A guy named Jerry Preston opened it there, 89, 90, something like that. And it did very well. There's a place called Denim and Diamonds. Jerry didn't like driving all the way out to the valley and driving back, so he opened his own place. He was in aerodynamics. Then he hired a team of people to go kind of expand Borderline into multiple locations, and that's when they ended up in Thousand Oaks. It was very rural, but it's close enough to LA, and they opened there in '93. My brother, when he got his license, I have an older brother, younger sister. My brother, when he got his license, went to Borderline, came back that night, and the next day was on the phone with a girl because he had a girlfriend. And we all said, "Where did you go?" And then he started going to Borderline in '94. So I was 14 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and we went there every Sunday. They had a family night. It was great for the community, great for us. All of our friends were there.
It was always a country bar?
It was always a country bar, yeah.
Okay.
Especially back then, yeah. It was more and more country then.
What do you mean, why was it more country back then?
They started a salsa night. They started some hip-hop nights, different things here and there to try to expand it. But it became a lot less country. Luckily, because then I was able to buy it. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
That's cool.
That was kind of like a deterioration in a sense, like by doing that other stuff.
I think to a point it wasn't branded properly as
Yeah.
a country bar. They were kind of all over the place. So Tuesday nights, they didn't really look at the history. So Tuesday nights used to be ladies' night, back when you can have ladies' nights, and that was a very country-oriented night.
Right.
So when they instantly switched it over to salsa, without promoting it, without letting their community know, a lot of people would walk in and say, what happened to this place? Not knowing that the next night or on Thursday, it was back to country. So we started promoting the Thursday, Saturday, and Sundays as our country nights, and people knew that if you wore a cowboy hat, you wore boots, you like country music, come on in. And then part of that too is I think a lot of the line dances started going to more of a hip hop or rock oriented music, and not thinking about, yes, you had a packed dance floor, but there's somebody sitting over the bar having a beer, wants to hear some country music, and you can't play 5 or 6 hip hop songs in a row because then they'd walk out. So we started kind of changing it, and some of the partners and stuff and people that worked with me at the time really understood that, which was great.
So how did you come into
what year did you take over?
I bought it in 2007.
And like what was your like, what were you doing before 2007 that kind of like even set you up?
My background in restaurants was my brother worked in them. That was it. I had no idea. I was a mechanic before that. I worked for Mercedes. I knew the marketing of Borderline. I knew the things that they were kind of lacking when it came to the marketing, the promotions, and like the country, really the people.
Was it because you went there and you kind of felt
100%.
it and you kind of understood what
Yeah,
people
well,
probably wanted? And
part of it too is I did get a job working with the House of Blue Foundation. So I worked with House of Blues and understood their restaurant background, but never got involved with the kitchen or the beer and stuff like that. So when I was working with that foundation and saw how the different nights could bring a completely different crowd, Erykah Badu, all these different shows that I would work, like kind of donate my time. And then you had Steel Panther on Mondays. It was just totally different crowds. And I kind of got that side of it. So I brought that to the Borderline side. Yeah. So, but I was still working as a mechanic the first 2.5 months of owning Borderline. I was doing roadside assistance calls, so I would get a page, stud pagers, hop in the car, go pick someone's flat tire, then come back to work to close out the night. It was great.
That's awesome.
yeah, it makes sense to transition like that too, right?
Yeah.
Like because you're not sure exactly what you got yourself into.
Well, they had an amazing staff. So
Yeah.
I mean, even when I bought the place, the staff is what continued to run it. J.R. Rackley and now Melissa Rackley, they've now got married. I mean, I basically just stepped back, and that's something the old owners didn't do. Step back, let them run it, make the tweaks where you need to, but trust them.
Yeah. So once you took over Borderline, then did you then kind of go deep on the country brand?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was riding horses growing up, and we, like I said, very. I guess we just kind of grew up country. I still had the very baggy pants when I would snowboard, don't get me wrong. But under those like crazy 90s baggy pants with that stripe down the side, I had my cowboy boots on. But yeah, I was always way into country. I love Borderline. I love everything it was. And once I got involved with the ownership side of it, my intention was just to buy in as a partner. Right. I had some money saved from the boxing. I made some really good money doing that, good purses and stuff here and there. And I was making good money at the car thing, being a mechanic. I bought my house when I was 22 years old, my first house, and so I never really took liens against and stuff. So I decided to leverage that and buy in a small partnership of this club that I love to go to. And I realized that the two owners would argue so much. Oh, here's some food.
Nice. Thanks, Lennon.
Thanks, Lennon. I expect my son to come. He's looking at me.
He's working here. I like it.
That's for her over there.
There you go.
All right. That was funny. He was looking at me. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, dude, you're working. Leave me alone.
Tip this guy.
I'm working. You're working. I'm like,
Hey, Megan, can you guess
He was like,
3
Papa.
roll-ups when you get a chance?
Papa.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
Cool. So what do we have here?
This is the salumi board. Chef's choice of 2 imported cured meats, homemade preserves, mixed olives, dry fruit, fresh fruit, and almonds. Yeah, and the almonds, they...
cool. Good seasoning on those.
Yeah, they make the seasoning here. They make that's like a fig jam that chef makes here. Everything on there is, is made here. So the olives we do here. Yeah, and then we also have a cheese board. That's basically pretty much the same thing with cheeses instead. So, and if you wanted, you could get both, and you could have cheese and meats.
Awesome.
But yeah, and I'm not sure what the meats are right now. It looks like one of them is like a prosciutto, some type of ham. I'm not sure. Yeah. Thank you, Megan.
So
Thank you.
Koto ham, is that what it's called?
Koto ham. Oh, maybe that's what that is. Yeah. Go for it. Cool. So we'll.
Very nice. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Do you have a culinary background, Jonathan?
Jonathan does, but John doesn't.
Okay, gotcha.
My culinary background is my first job in Thousand Oaks at 15, maybe 16, was at Hot Dog on a Stick in the Oaks Mall.
Oh, okay. Still have the hat? Still got to
I
have the
don't
hat.
have the hat. No.
I still got that. Can we put John in here with that hat on?
Yeah,
Can we
right.
get it? Can
The
we
guys
Photoshop that?
wore a visor.
Okay.
We didn't have to wear the same hat as the girls, fortunately. And then we wore like a polo, like a white polo and white shorts.
Okay.
And the girls obviously wore the striped tank top and
And the
those
yellow.
red booty
Red.
shorts.
There you go.
And yeah, that was a wild organization at that time. Yeah, that was Dave Barham, the guy who invented the hot dog on a stick.
He invented the hot dog
He
on the stick?
invented the hot dog on a stick.
What?
Yeah.
Like
He-
the corn dog?
He
Or
has
like,
a patent on the,
that's what
on
I'm
the corn
wondering.
dog. On the corn dog, yes. He
He
has
He
patent.
invented the corn dog?
He invented the corn dog.
Dude, that guy's a trillionaire.
He's
Yeah, right.
and
Doing well.
He's dead now, but he did well. Yeah. He
They
he
bear-
had a hot dog stand on Venice Boulevard, and he sold only hot dogs and lemonade. And so people would walk off, and then they would be walking down the boulevard, and they'd be like struggling eating the hot dog.
Oh,
So he's
wow.
like, why don't I just like shove a stick in it, and then I'll come up with some way to like put the bun on it, hence the batter.
Yeah.
And so they could just eat the stick and drink the lemonade as they're walking
brilliant.
down the And then also he had a patent on his batter, his corn batter, that somehow didn't absorb the grease.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somehow it like there was something in it that kind of like rejected the the oil or whatever. So
Cornstarch or
you
something.
something, whatever that recipe was, he had the patent on that as well. And when I got hired, he had to personally meet every female that got hired, and they had to do like they had to make lemonade for him.
Oh, okay.
So he could and he strategically designed the method of how they beat the lemons, so there was like maximum bouncage.
Bouncage. Okay.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
So the
Would-
inventor of the corn dog was a bit flawed.
It was what?
He's a bit flawed.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't work today.
No.
You wouldn't have got away with that, but back then it was all good.
I'm never eating a corn dog again.
A guy like that definitely gets buried in like a corn dog casket for sure.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Definitely corn dog
He
casket.
definitely died very wealthy, and I think he died of like syphilis or something like that.
I assume he
Makes
didn't
sense.
choke on
It's
a
on
hot dog.
brand.
You already had a backup for that.
That's funny. I'm gonna cut this, whatever this
Get it?
sort of meat is.
Well, it's all delicious.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the guy that invented Segway. Didn't he die going off a cliff on the Segway?
He
Did he?
purchased it. From what I understand, he purchased Segway, and then he's a very wealthy guy hopped on a Segway that he had, bought the whole company.
Oh,
And
he didn't invent it. He just
he
bought
didn't
the
invent it,
company.
He bought the company, and he eventually crashed the Segway. That's how he passed away, as the story goes.
That is wild.
Another
That is
thing
wild.
I learned on TikTok, I'm sure. You said they make the seasoning in-house.
Yes.
Okay.
I was lobbying to call the nuts D's nuts, but why whatever happened to that? Why didn't we do that?
We can put on the trifold menu. We'll have 1,000 copies of trifold menus that say these nuts. So that'll be perfect.
Love it.
The menu that never existed, or
What do you mean?
the trifold? Don't we just scan?
Oh no, physical.
We're gonna print out
Physical.
some physical ones.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. It's weird. Like before COVID, we had menus,
Oh, yeah.
and then after COVID, like we weren't allowed to have menus, like paper menus, and then like, years go by, and we're like, why don't we have menus? Why do we still not have menus?
Do you need them?
I mean, people like to have menu. People like to grab a menu and sit down
Yeah,
and
and sit
take a
down,
look at
go
it.
over it, hand them around.
Yeah.
But if your
you
phone
know?
dies,
It's more of a social thing. What's your phone
Yeah.
does?
Yeah.
we can
When
offer
you
charging
die.
stations.
If your phone dies, you're dead.
I think the plan
That's
is
true.
QR code, order everything, then your phone dies, so they can't actually charge your card.
That's the move.
It's a backup thing. You got to come in with like 4%. But if the date goes well, you're like, man, it's bad.
This is good. It's spicy. I like that.
That one's good.
Really good.
It is spicy.
Spicy in a good way.
Can you look into your mic and say that?
No, you can't.
You were flirting with the mic, but you didn't want to say it. You're teasing it.
You guys
It's
have
more flirting with my camera, not my mic.
Oh, yeah, duh. My bad. What am
you
I
guys
saying?
have an in-house chef or
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, we have
Flirting with the mic.
Chef Ivan. He's our executive chef.
Okay.
Yeah. He's amazing.
How'd you guys meet him? Interview or
He,
friendship?
he lives right, like walking distance.
Oh, perfect.
And most of his career he worked in Santa Barbara, and then he was working in LA. He was working for Trejo,
Oh, okay.
and they were trying to do kind of like a fine dining cantina, and it was just kind of, I think it was like a hot mess. I don't think it survived, and he was like just tired of driving into LA to
Gotcha.
work from here, and he's like, just came in here one day, and I don't know, the timing was just perfect. We were just
Love
like,
it.
yeah. When we first opened, we like, you know, you're doing all the, you know, your pro forma and it's all, you know, math and numbers and how many tables you have and this,
Yep.
that, and the other. And we bought this pizza oven and like tells you how many pizzas it can make per hour and all this stuff, but like none of the stuff actually translates into real life.
Exactly.
You know, once it's like real life goes on and you're like, what the, you know, like,
You couldn't make as many pizzas as
Yeah.
you wanted to.
we just got slammed. There was 1,000 people in here at one time, everyone ordering a pizza, because all we really had initially was pizza.
Yeah.
And so like, man, we're gonna have to expand the menu. And
Yeah.
and like right at that time he walked in looking for something. We're like, yeah, you're here. And
Yep.
and at that time we had a GM who had a lot of restaurant experience. He was kind of trying to, you know, get in there, whatever, but he definitely, you know, was not an executive chef. You know,
Gotcha.
so there's a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, like, yeah, pretty much. I think, man, was hot dog on a stick my only
Culinary experience.
culinary experience. I can't remember. I feel like I've had 1,000 jobs.
Okay.
I'm sure I've worked in more.
That could be our
more-
next podcast because you and I both have had
Yeah,
1,000
yeah.
jobs.
Yeah, good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working since like 10. You know, so I've had, you know, I have 40 years of job experience. Hot dog on a stick was my first like legit, you know.
W-2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Here's a
know,
paycheck every 2
payroll.
weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that was interesting about that job, since we were talking about like how sexist that dude was and everything, was that the girls started at this is would have been 1988, 87 maybe. Girls minimum wage at that time was
Okay.
maybe $4.25 an hour or something like that, and girls started at 5 and guys started at 6. And that was like just normal.
This is how it was.
This is it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
They
crazy.
gotta lift stuff, so
yeah, exactly. My main role was stock. I was like a stock
There you
boy.
go.
I was stocking the,
Yeah.
you know, putting weenies in freezers and whatnot. And then I wasn't allowed to touch a register. Guys weren't like trusted to handle cash.
oh,
I wasn't allowed to cook hot dogs. There was a bunch of stuff I wasn't. I was basically only allowed to stock and make lemonade. And that was pretty much it. It was pretty crazy. But anyways.
The lemonade that you guys have here, is that inspired by the lemonade there?
It definitely is. I mean, I vividly remembered that recipe. So when we
Oh,
started
wow.
making lemonade, I started kind of making that recipe, and then Chef kind of took over and made his version of it, where it has the chia seeds in it. But yeah, originally when we started making fresh lemonade, it was exactly that recipe.
that's crazy.
But the thing
love
that's
it.
interesting about it is that the smashing. Of,
Did you smash
yeah, we didn't have the smasher.
Exactly.
And the flavor really comes from the rind.
The rind, yeah.
So, anyways.
So let's go back to you bought the business. You went hard in the paint with the brand of.
Yes.
Was it all country nights then? Is that what you kind of figured out?
No, I still kept the salsa nights.
Oh, you did?
We were able to expand it. So we started doing a salsa competition every year. I started bringing in bands for salsa instead of just the same DJ every week. There was a promotional company that was involved. We got rid of them. One of the owners, the old owners, was really into salsa, so he would work that night. I think he picked up a Friday here and there, and that was about it. And the other owner would come in and do the country nights.
Right.
And I just thought that was because they were taking days off. But once I purchased it, when I was trying to become the partner, is when I realized that these two just didn't get along as people anymore. So they couldn't really be in the same building. And then, like, a couple of Fridays and stuff, or a couple of Saturdays and stuff, I'd be there. And as we're all hanging out, the place is pretty busy. It was doing well. They would start to argue. One would go, like two parents. One would go in the office. The other would stay out. And they'd swap. It got so uncomfortable that I realized by 11:30 a packed night is empty, and it's because no one wants to be. There's this tension in the air. You don't know if a fight's about to break out. What's going on. So that just kept happening. So finally, I was like, "You guys don't come in anymore." And once you do that, I'll run the place. I'll bring my brother in. We'll run it. We'll be the personalities of it, and we'll make this thing work. And then the purchasing the business took an extra 6 months because of how contentious it got between the two of them. Who's going to get what cut, their money and stuff like that. To the point where the last meeting we had, I just told one guy to get out of the room. I'm like, you've signed every document you need to sign. Get the hell out. And it got real. Like, he stood up all flared and stuff like that. I'm like, you can sit down and leave. I don't know, give a shit. You've already signed everything. And then once he realized that he was pretty screwed, then they signed it over. And as soon as they left, it just became this, like, every employee was happy.
Right.
You know, I didn't need to get more money or nothing. It's just they're making more tips. People are staying later. It was nice. It was
really interesting. I find that I see that a lot with the teams I work with. Is there's always that one person that's driving everybody away from a different direction, or maybe it's two people, and nobody's going to complain about them. But once they're gone, everybody will come to me like, "Oh my gosh, this is so much better."
Exactly. It's so weird and so true though. Mm-hmm. You got to take that leap and kind of hope that you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do, especially when you're buying people out.
Yeah. That became that, yeah. There was like a third partner who was not really involved. He's married to some famous actress. And there was a fourth partner nobody knew anything about. And I had to go to Texas and find that guy and have him sign some documents because he was still not legally on the liquor license. It was cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun journey.
So you ended up buying it fully out?
Fully out.
Oh,
yeah, fully
incredible.
out, just me, no partners, nothing like that.
Now, how many years did you do that? Or did you have it
2007 to 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran it the whole time.
Okay.
So it was fun. Yeah.
Anything change over those 11 years?
Definitely different nights. We tried things here and there. Actually doing what Tarantula Hill has become, and like doing all the charity events and things like that, and getting involved with those charities and hosting their events, kind of like the back of what you guys are doing right now with the cancer research. That became our Friday nights never really hit. Like Borderline never did well on Friday nights, except for a little thing called Rum Jungle. It's a whole different story. I'll have to tell you guys another time. The way it went down was amazing. But doing those, like not having a theme on a Friday and just doing whatever band we can book, anywhere from like Warren G to Andrew Dice Clay, comedians, everything, that really escalated the profits of the business. But every other night was just, we did a country night and we didn't skew from that. Like we were Saturday, and if someone wanted to offer us $15,000 for a bar mitzvah, no, I don't know everybody that comes on a Saturday, and I can't call them and tell them we're closed.
Right.
And when they drive from Bakersfield to get here and they're pissed off, they're not driving back next weekend.
Yeah.
So we made sure that consistency was there for that crowd, which was great, and that was a big help too. So,
I'm trying to think if I ever went there after 2007. I imagine I probably didn't, but I remember I used to go there and play pool.
Yep.
I remember when it was Charlie Brown's.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I ever went after 2007.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But yeah, I mean that place,
Either you never
it's
went or we
legendary.
served you way too much.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah, well, let's see. What year was I? Would I've been 21? I definitely went there when I was under 21. I imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, right.
What I heard, there's more than one Charlie Brown's, and they had built that same sort of structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
in
was
a
one in
different
Ventura
Charlie
as
Brown
well.
in Ventura. Okay.
Yeah.
There's one in Ventura. There's one in the Valley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exact same building.
Exact same building.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
It's called the
Weird.
Golden China right now in Ventura.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
What's it called?
The Golden China.
Okay.
Yeah.
See it right off the freeway.
Yep.
So, John, you grew up seeing that building. You went there to Charlie Brown's. You went there.
I never went there when it was Charlie Brown's.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think it was like kind of an expensive restaurant maybe, but
It was like the Wood Ranch of Thousand Oaks.
Was it?
Like it's
Yeah.
one of those you could go there if you were wealthy enough to afford it.
yeah.
Anytime you wanted, or if someone graduated high school, your family
Yeah,
would go
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But it was like that middle ground, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
Then you have the mass shows and stuff like that, and that's why Wood Ranch I think does so well,
Yeah.
because they're that middle ground as well. But that was like the big place in Thousand Oaks.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown's is a big deal.
And there was a Velvet Turtle.
Velvet Turtle. Yeah.
Big night for my family was the Sizzler. So
Oh man.
if my dad would come visit us, he would take my sister and me to El Torito.
Oh, upstairs.
was-
oh, you were
yeah,
21
that-
yet.
Yeah,
That
but
upstairs bar.
that place was rad. The two
Yes,
stories.
It
Yeah.
was cool. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Borderline definitely, legendary
Yeah.
in this town for sure.
It's funny. I hear people talk about Charlie Brown's. No one really tells stories or talks about the Black Angus.
The Black
The
Angus.
Black
Yep.
Angus that shut down in the Thousand Oaks Mall, that
Yep.
big place.
Yeah.
But I just never really hear about it.
I dated a girl that worked there, so I went there a lot, and
Okay.
it was the Black Angus was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big bar in the middle, like
Yep.
sunk down a little
Exactly.
bit. Crazy.
Yeah, no, that was a great spot.
Nice.
Man, what else? There was the bowling alley,
Yep.
and they had a club there. I think it was called Phases. Do you remember that?
After the bowling alley, like before
It was in the
Borders?
bowling alley.
Oh no.
In the bar, they had a bar, and they would do a club night, a DJ in there, and it was It was all ages.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I would go there like when this would have been when I was in like 7th grade probably. So it would have been like, I don't know what year that was, but long time ago.
No, we drove out here for on lunch break at Agora High School. You only get that 47 minutes, so you'd have to
Yeah.
run to your
47.
car. 47. Run to your car, get in there, speed out to Arby's, try to get to that Arby's, get a
Arby's.
couple. $5 for $5, hop back
Yeah.
in the car and make it back. That was our only trips to Thousand Oaks. But I didn't have cars that made it all the way to Thousand
The
Oaks.
Arby's on TO.
The Arby's on TO, yeah.
They just shut that thing down
Just
about
shut
Yeah,
down.
I know.
9 months
It's
ago.
going to
or
be
something like
a dentist spot or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a dental spot.
They needed that drive-through. It seemed like they needed 2 more feet.
Yeah.
They could have that drive-through, but it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
that. Arby's
yeah.
fries, the curly fries.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't beat them.
I haven't had Arby's in probably since you were in high school at Agora. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Probably. Yeah, right.
That's because you guys got the meats now.
We
Yeah.
got the meat.
Oh, look at this guy. Little Arby's plug right there.
Yeah.
His residual checks.
Here's a little fun fact. Do you guys know what Arby's stands for?
No idea.
No clue.
Roast beef. RB.
Oh. you and I both at the same time. Oh.
What?
Isn't that funny?
That makes total sense.
Roast beef. A roast beef sandwich.
That's
An
crazy.
RB sandwich.
Arby's sandwich.
Why am I blushing?
Because you're like, yeah, I think I had the same reaction when I found out. I was like,
I was like
what?
embarrassed.
Yeah,
It's like when I found out the W was 2 U's. I was like, what? How did someone tell me that?
That's funny. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
2 Utes.
Also, the other.
Yeah, I was going to say, what else you got, John?
I got more of those for sure. But I was gonna say, do you remember the Red Onion?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
The Red Onion was the first spot where I would go and use my fake ID.
Okay. That was Joe Preston's spot, I believe.
Who's that?
Another story.
Yeah?
Great guy, local guy.
Is he still around?
He's still around, yeah.
Okay.
So I know his son. Great house down in Palm Desert. There's local people. Joe's
Nice.
a great guy. Younger guy, did very, very well.
Yeah.
And
That place was popping.
That place was popping.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was there's a couple different spots that were doing well, like Borderline was one of them. And
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I think the Velvet Turtle was one. All of a sudden, this Red Onion popped up, and I think that was Joe's.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but
Yeah,
I am being recorded.
and then
so
the Yucatan opened, and they kind of took over.
Paul, yeah,
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah. And that was like, yeah, the Yucatan was popping as well.
The place did well for a while. Yep. Then
Yeah.
Blue, then Chapter 8, then they all came in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just got crazy for a little while there in 2009 through what, like 15 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Chapter 8 was the Finnefrox, right?
Finny Fox. They started
Yeah.
with P6.
Yeah.
And then they moved on to, they did Chapter 8. Suki 7 was kind of like the too much
Yeah.
too much in one spot.
Yeah,
But
I
they had
was
some great
down in
concepts.
LA at that point. Like I missed out on all that.
Did you live down there or just travel?
I did. Yeah, I moved down to Hollywood like right when I turned 21, I think.
Gotcha. Did you
Yeah.
get a promotion, hot dog on a stick? They needed a manager.
Yeah, exactly. No, I got into
Atlantic
the music-
Records was like, hey,
Yeah,
this guy
Yeah.
got
knows
to the
his
music
corn
industry.
dogs.
Gotcha. I know this is corn dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you do in the music industry? I know you're in a band.
My first job when I moved down there was I started Island Records.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a scout. I worked in the A&R department, and I did that, and then I moved into a management company, Moyer Marie Entertainment, which is sort of the Steve Moyer and Lisa Marie. They were kind of the Oz, the Wizard of Oz of the industry. They're the people behind the scenes that made a lot of things happen. Like, it was insane being inside there.
They managed producers, or what they managed?
They managed mostly producers. I worked for Lisa, and she managed literally like the top 10 producers in the business. And at that time too, it was very clear cut, like who the top guys were.
Gotcha.
Like it was like who, if you took the top 40 songs on the radio, whatever, like 80% of them were produced and mixed by these
Same people. Yeah.
Incredible.
And then Steve managed executives, like all the top, like, the CEO, the CEO, the president, vice president of all the labels.
Wow.
The record labels, which is, I think, pretty unique, like in an industry where like somebody's managing the executives.
I was going to say, I'm surprised they even had managers at that point.
And it was basically just he got you the job.
Okay.
And then he took a cut of your money for the rest of your career.
Until he had you fired and got somebody else.
Exactly.
Got it.
Which is very unique, right? Like, but him, he had the ability to. That's what I'm saying. Like, he was the Oz of the industry. Like, he was. It was very interesting, being there. Yeah, and I remember seeing like I would receive these guys' checks.
Oh, wow.
And then, the checks were written to them.
Yeah.
And then we would cut the producer their cut, their portion after they take their cut or whatever. And I was just like, like Brendan O'Brien produced Pearl Jam and Rage Against the Machine records, seeing that dude's checks come in and for like the whole world, you know? And I was just like, oh my God. And then because he was so successful at that, then Sony, he did those records for Epic, which I believe was a Sony imprint. And then they just gave him an imprint. Like they gave him a record label. And so he's now the president of said record label. And so now Lisa is his manager for producing records, and then Steve's his manager as an executive.
I didn't know they used that term imprint in music. They use it in book publishing, but is it same as a label?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they use imprint.
Brand.
Yeah, like when I was at Island, there was Island Records was sort of the mother company, and it was when I started Island, it was still an independent label, and then they got bought by Polygram. But within Island, there was 20 imprints.
So separate brands within Island that would have like.
So it would like every record would have the Island logo, and then it would have like another logo.
Okay.
Like
and that logo would be kind of like a specific type of music.
Exactly.
Genre,
exactly. Like Jason Bentley, you guys know Jason Bentley? He's a radio personality DJ. They gave him an imprint because he was like on the pulse of all that stuff at that time, and it was very. It made a lot of sense through Island. They had a label called Island Black Music. That was like specifically for like who was on that label? I can't remember, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, there was what was it called? There was a bunch of them. Yeah. And then also like Chris Blackwell was also buying other labels. And then he would make them basically. I guess those wouldn't be necessarily called imprints or whatever, but they were basically imprints. Like he owned the Trojan Records catalog, which was like, the beginning of all like the really good Jamaican reggae and stuff like that. But
we can go deep into that.
We could go.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, here we go.
John just said reggae. John just said reggae. You have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's layers to that for sure. But yeah, so that was how I got started down there, and then I ended up one of my jobs at Island was to filter the demo tapes that were coming in.
Oh wow.
So like every day, the mailroom guy would come by, and I'd see him coming down the aisle, and he'd be dropping everybody's mail, off a cart.
Stacks.
And then he'd get to my desk and he'd go, and he would dump out these
Tapes.
just CDs and cassettes, and there'd be just hundreds every day. And my job was to like log them and listen to as much of it as I could.
Yeah.
They had a policy, no unsolicited music, which meant it had to come from like a lawyer or a manager. So most of it was like, just into the trash. Unfortunately, all those people's dreams just into the garbage, But I did listen to a lot of it, and then I realized like I think you listen to records and like how especially in that era, like like coming out of the 80s and the 90s, like how well produced everything was.
Yeah.
You just assume that like you would have to be able to like just do that as an artist, but like I didn't even think about like the artist has very little to do with that. It's the producer.
It's all.
And to be able to afford to pay a producer, you have to be on a major label. And like everybody else was like, yeah, good luck. Like you had to go into a recording studio, and to do all that,
It's just right there.
Yeah, and it's like at that time, when my band got signed to Atlantic, like $1 million was a normal budget to make a record.
Damn.
So then I'm listening to these demos coming in, and I was like, this is terrible. Like, this is what is this shit?
The garage band?
What are these people doing? And then I would like listen to a demo, and I'd be like, this is the worst I've heard. And then then the next day I would hear they got signed.
Oh.
And I was like, what?
By who?
That got signed?
Yeah.
How did that happen? And you also had to play back then. You had to play a showcase at least. Like you had to play on somewhere on the Strip or the Troubadour. And then the A&R guys had to come and see you and see that you could actually perform before they would sign you or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was listening to the tapes. I was like, there's no way I could do worse than that. I know nothing about anything. I will destroy that on a demo, And and then I got my brother-in-law who had like just like a 8-track digital recorder. I was like, let's make a fucking demo.
Yeah.
And we crushed it on the demos. But anyways. That's a whole.
That was your history in music.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
And work.
Yeah. And then I did that for a couple decades, and then this opportunity came back, and the brewery came up, and I was like, I'm going to go back to my hometown. And
That's awesome.
And I think that like it's to tie this back into you, there's like this community, like growing up here, those when you're little, it's all, it's all so you don't know
Exactly.
what's on the other side, right? I really took for granted how amazing Thousand Oaks is, like how beautiful it is, how much the community cares about the community, all the great stuff about this community. Until I left, obviously.
Of course.
And then also my experience with leaving was I lived in LA for all that time, and then I also got to travel the country. My band played in 48 states, and we played at least half of the countries in Europe, Australia, Japan, all that stuff. And then after all that time, like be like, wow, Thousand Oaks is like
special.
Like, I've been to a lot of places, like, and this I want to raise my kids here, I want to be here. And then this opportunity came up, and like understanding, and then also like like we talk about all those places, like you've seen all these places that like I said, the Sizzler, like how many places have been at that where the Sizzler was, like it's been
Fuddruckers,
yeah,
the Hooters, and
it's been a lot of places.
Yeah.
And like those big sort of conglomerates, they come in and they don't understand the community, and they have no chance of surviving.
Oh, it's so true.
They're just gonna get it's gonna like
give them a couple years.
Yeah, give them a couple years, and they're just gonna get chewed up and spit out. I think that like they look at when you look at the way those things work, they're bean counters, like we talked about. Like they're talking about, they see the numbers, they see the median income, They see the, all the, the education that they see, like, there's a lot of money in this town. Like, any business could come in and could potentially thrive here because there's so much money.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a pulse on this community, you have no shot here.
Yeah.
Like it's people like you who live and breathe it and understand it. People like us that, like we live and breathe. Like, that's why we're able to succeed in this town. You have to be in tuned and in touch with what this community wants.
It's the Conejo Valley days, and I remember when I first bought the bar, everybody said you got to go to Chili Cook-Off. I'm like, yeah, I go every year. They're like, no, you have to be there as Borderline. I was like, I don't know what Borderline did in the past, but I probably won't do it this year. I'll just hold off. So people start bringing in pictures. Now we're talking about like actual printed out pictures they took off their like Canon, not a digital. And they're like, hey, man, look, this is what we do, and we're a big part of it. I said, okay. And the staff told me, it was Melissa Rackley actually. She's like, we need to have a booth there. So I saw on these pictures it was a stage. So I brought a stage, I brought a band, I brought a PA. I guess they're not supposed to have a band, but everyone loved it. So every year we have at the Chili Cook-Off, we have a band, we have our Borderline booth, I bring the Blazer out, and it's just like it's become something we do every year.
Right.
But people driving back from Stagecoach just to go to that because that's what they do.
Yeah.
Stagecoach is great, but if it falls on that Sunday, they're here for the Chili Cook-Off.
Yeah.
And Sizzler and the owners of Sizzler are not going to understand that.
Yeah.
Whereas you're over at Bandits and Ron Parker's walking around talking to everybody, and it's great. It's what needs to happen. I agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and you're ingrained in all that stuff. Like you said, Chili Cook-Off, you're doing the Conejo Valley days.
Yep.
You're doing your festival, all the things that you do in the community, for the community, all that kind of stuff or whatever. It's like,
It's what made Borderline, essentially what became Borderline.
Yeah.
When we started doing the Oak Heart in 2012 and being at the Chili Cook-Off and everyone realizing, and they're like, oh yeah, that place is still there? We'll go over there. It's been there for so long.
Yeah.
But that's why our Saturdays, we were 700-800 people every once in a while. We were like, dang. Out of nowhere. And that's no extra promotion. Same DJ as, Thursday.
Yeah.
It was great. So.
Yeah, no, and now watching, it's been awesome working with you in the past few months on, and seeing your, like you doing your Borderline nights here once a month.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Oh man, it's been awesome.
I'd also like to point out that this is the longest conversation you and I have ever had. We walk in, we talk business, we leave. That's when I was like, when I was driving out today from, I was up in Pine Lake, we're driving down, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about because we never really talked.
John's used to just talking with a mic in his face.
Yeah, right.
Just bring a mic next time.
Very articulate, I must say.
But yeah, so no, but it's been really cool, obviously working with you.
No,
obviously,
those nights are insane.
Yeah, and the nights are insane.
We filmed a couple of times in those nights, and it's like, oh my, what is going on out there?
So fun.
Yeah, and like it's your, the community that you built around what you're doing or whatever, seeing them, showing up and just here to support you.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
and also, we've done, we did when you got sick.
Man.
And we did the
my first outing.
Yeah.
After I got back from getting sick, I was so frail. I remember my first outing was walking around the back of the wall here, seeing everybody there and start tearing up. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much.
Oh, for sure, man.
That like hay bales, and they're out there giving speeches on a hay bale. I'm like, who's this for? That guy's not that important. Trust me.
Oh no, man. They came to support, man, for sure.
Crazy.
Yeah. These people love you.
No, man. I feel it every day. It's crazy the way they've been, how supportive they've been with everything. In 2009. The roof leaked at Borderline, and it leaked so bad that the health department came in and shut us down. I'd already been fighting with the landlord for 2 years, and we didn't know if, opening that place up, if they were going to come back. But then my dad and I always joke about it. People were sitting there dancing around buckets on the floor when it was leaking, so we're like, they're going to come back. So we ended up getting rid of the house and pouring all the money we had in the house into the bar, and they fixed the roof, and then we opened back up, and the place was packed right away. It was December 23rd, right before Christmas, a little Christmas miracle. It was crazy. Wow. But we did have one guy who happened to walk in to do some IT stuff, and you'll appreciate it. This is a business owner. Guy comes in, sees that we're going to get shut down, calls everybody he knows, tells everyone. And before I had a chance to even tell anybody, people knew Borderline was closed. And this is October 13th, 2009. So then I called him first, and I was like, hey, man, we just got our license to reopen, and we're going to open back up. So I hang up the phone. He's all happy. And I waited about an hour, and I called him back. I'm like, have you told a single person that we're going to open back up? No, man, but I'll be there. I was like, you better start calling everybody you know, man. I'll tell you what. So it was fun, man. The people are just, they hear the bad stuff, and they don't. But the Borderline community, the Thousand Oaks community, they come for the good stuff as well, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's appreciated.
Yeah, and they have a good time like no other. I mean,
Oh,
like,
man.
you know, they're
Yeah.
having a blast here. It's just awesome. So,
Yep.
and I stood at the door that one night and just kind of just talking to people as they're coming through the door, and they're coming from everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's not just local people. I mean, they're people. They're coming from, you know, the Valley, Santa Clarita.
Yep.
You know, just from all over
Down
the
from
place.
Ventura. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys doing that monthly right now?
Yeah.
We do the
Okay.
first Sunday of every month, or first Saturday of every month. Saturday
Okay.
night.
Yep.
The one plug I got and I messed it up. Sorry, Amanda.
The first Saturday of every month.
First Saturday of every month. Yeah.
First Saturday of every
So,
month.
Yep.
And what's your plans right now? Are you looking for another spot?
Looking for another spot. Trying to figure that out. What we're gonna do next. The liquor license. So we were in Ventura County, obviously originally. We moved to LA County when I opened the BL Saloon. COVID hit. We reopened back up, and when that lease was up, I put the liquor license up for sale. Still hasn't sold. So it's.
Oh, really?
I mean, it sold right away. Sorry, let me start that. Which went into escrow like 2 days later. It still hasn't transferred.
Oh, okay.
So we're waiting for the state of California to give us our liquor license. You just went through this.
Yeah,
So-
it takes a long time.
Yeah,
That
so-
once it gets in escrow, yeah, like I don't know how long the one that we bought was sitting there, but it was months, man.
Yeah, and you have to post. So you have to put a big
Yeah, we
poster
did the
up,
post
letting
up
people
right
know.
away. Yeah.
So that's 60 days there.
Yeah.
Then they take that, everything's complete, all the CPU is all done. The person buying it sends it up to the state, says we're qualified and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden the state stamps it. Once that happens, you go online, you find out yours is now pending, the other one's active, and then escrow starts to transfer the funds and stuff. So none of that stuff's actually happened yet towards the end.
Right.
Once that happens, now I know that I'm going to go buy a Ventura County license and find
Okay.
out where we're going to put it.
Gotcha.
Then you got to make sure it's zoned and all
Right,
that
right.
stuff. So, but I feel like the city will be supportive in the reopening and finding the right
Oh, yeah.
spot. It's definitely going to be like a forever home, kind of like the old place we thought was.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that place is built in '72. It's kind of ironic because in 2020 my lease was up, so I was going to move the location, either try to buy the property, fix the property properly, or move the location anyway. So a lot of the conversations that I had way back when, we've now had once we closed the Agora location.
Okay.
So yeah, so a lot of people. I mean, went to Larry Jans's house, and I was sitting there talking to him up Jans Road, and I was like, "This is weird to be here. I appreciate it. This is awesome." And we're just talking about different properties in the area and where he'd like to buy and to reopen Borderline. So
Awesome.
yeah. So we're working on it. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So and I still work with the old. A lot of the old staff are still around. They want to come back. They want to be there. So
Yeah.
Yep. And you've been honored, and they're nice enough to hire one of them. Which is just absolutely awesome for all of us, and I think it's cool.
Cool.
People come to see her, so yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting there slowly.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, I
Yeah.
love how you guys have figured out a way to work together, and again, like just
Yeah.
the collaboration of like.
Well, he came to me a while back. God, I forgot the first time that we ever talked about it. You're like, if you ever want to do anything there, and then when we got shut down for a couple of days because we had like a noise ordinance problem that we had too many people on the stage, and I was like, when we're ready, we'll be there for sure. And I remember the day I actually walked in, you were sitting in the back, I'm like, hey, we're ready. You're like, let's do it. Then he walked inside, and I should have put a mic in his face. Okay. I'll be back the first day. Working with Carrie's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
She was a big Borderline regular when I first bought the place.
Yeah.
So I
That
remember,
makes sense.
yeah, I was 27 when I bought the bar. And I didn't know how some of the older people were going to be like, who's this guy? Like, what's John
Right.
do? And I remember Fred Meyer, one of the local guys, Fred and Sharon Meyer, like very popular in the area. Fred never said a word to me. I always hug his wife, talk to him, knew his daughter. One day he just pulls me in real close. We like you. And I was like, okay. Sounds good.
That's funny.
It's cool.
Well, cool.
Yep.
Let's do a tool.
Okay. So one other thing we do on this, I don't know if you saw on any of the episodes that you watched, we talk about Tool,
Okay.
which is
Theory of overall logic.
theory of overall logic,
Okay.
which is a pretty basic concept, right? Just like kind of overall logic. Basically, a tool that you have in your mental toolbox
Okay.
that you can attribute to your success, that you could share with other people who are, trying to do what you've been able to do. Like something that's like that you see that kind of reoccurs. That comes up. Daily or weekly or whatever that you
Okay.
just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And-
you could
and-
have texted me this.
Well,
Let me know a couple days ago.
I can keep
Let me-
talking
let me-
about it if you want to think.
Let me drop
No,
an
it's
anchor
cool.
in a spot for you, because I think like you went through a pretty traumatic experience,
Yeah.
with Borderline, and coming out of that, I just can't imagine a few things must have resonated with you that maybe stronger than ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Across the board,
In those types of situations, and maybe there's something in that you could kind of share that.
I think I guess like, so I went from the hockey to the boxing to the mechanic and stuff like that. And when I was mechanic, I always worried about keeping my job there too. But then I bought the bar, and I realized that like, if you don't know something, ask or just start to listen. Like, listen to the right people, find out who might know that answer, and listen to things they say. Because sometimes you don't even know the right question. And I realized that one of the things when I did buy the bar is there's so many people suing for, workman's comp and stuff like that. So I started hanging out with a lot of lawyers, friends of mine that were lawyers. Started asking things like, what do people sue for, right? And I'm like, so when you have an employee, because I never had employees before, I'm like, when you have an employee and they sue the owner of the business, what do they sue for? And I started finding those answers and trying to find out what like a slip and fall attorney looks for in a case. Yeah. And making sure that those things weren't like a possibility. Whereas, if you have someone who goes to sue and they say, well, do you ever use your own vehicle to go get gas? Or to go get like ice or something like that when the ice machine broke down? If the answer is yes, then they say, okay, well, do they ever reimburse you for gas? So when text messaging came out, I always text, hey, you want some money for gas? Sometimes they wouldn't take it. But then when that person sits down with the attorney and starts saying, the attorney's going to ask the same questions to him, and the answer is always like, they always offer me gas, he gave me the key to his truck, those little things where you're going to have a lawyer just not, he's like, I can't sue this guy, there's nothing to sue for.
Right.
I didn't know any of that stuff, but if I went to a lawyer and said, tell me how not to get sued, he would never give me the right answer. So I guess just like find people in your life who are knowledgeable in certain things and listen when they talk, because they want to tell you all the stuff they know. I mean, they really do. And that was one of the things that I really just kind of try to learn when I was younger. Now more and more when it came to what was happening with the shooting and stuff, and not for the lawyer aspect of it, but just like what to do in these situations, like how do you handle things. And then when COVID hit, luckily we had been doing the festivals and stuff, and when it came to the fundraising, we knew how to do it because way back when we listened to this guy Harry Shad and his thoughts. And I guess the biggest thing is to take away from that is just try to listen to the knowledge of every uncle, every dad. Just sit there and just stare at them, listen to what they have to say. Because like if you don't know that question, you'll never find the right question to ask. But eventually you'll find the answer just by paying attention to other people's histories and experiences, and shoving sticks and hot dogs.
Yeah, yeah, that's super important, and I think that that is definitely a lesson for a lot of people of any generation, but especially sort of the younger generation. And like we talk about that a lot. When what you're talking about, I call it the white belt mentality.
Okay.
Like even though like in your game you're a black belt.
Yeah.
But like to always keep that mentality, like there's always something to be learned. So always keep your ears open. Like don't always walk into the room acting like you know everything, and like so that like and I think like a lot of young people they kind of walk around with this like their ears are turned off, like you're saying, like, and they're not listening. They come in, they're asking the wrong questions, all that stuff, whatever. But if you make that note, like if you drive that into your head, like I need to just constantly be learning and keep open to that, whatever. It's and I think also I think a lot of people, I think the way that our school system is set up, where like you're going to school and then you got to get to high school and then you got to get to college and then you get to college and then then after you go to college you have to get a job, like there's that thing. I think that like the way that is teaching kids, like by the time they get done with college, like I'm done learning, I got it all now. I know everything now.
I've been told.
And like
it's because it's fed to them.
It's fed in a way
versus like asking questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that whole like you don't know what you don't know, and like if someone never told you something, whether that's the origin of something, wherever it came from, like there's no way you can know that. Yep. And one of the things that always bothered me as a kid, and one of the reasons I was probably so angry is like when people would make fun of someone for not knowing something. It's like, this guy's probably never talked about this, never been in this situation. When it comes to music or something like that, whatever they've never been around is something they don't know. Yeah. Right. But you could tell us all kinds of things about Minnesota that I've never spent enough time there. Yeah. You go to Laramie, Wyoming, I can tell you everything about it. I lived there for 9 months, and I know the mayor. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where you just don't know it. And if they only have these life experiences, and everyone's experiencing a different aspect of life.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when, like, ask those questions if you don't
Yeah.
know the answer to the question, you need to know it, because then you're going to get yourself in a situation where if you didn't ask the question, now you're backed into a corner because you just didn't know what to ask or how to ask it or anything like that, but you're too embarrassed to ask.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of what I think, like you said, with school. You never want to raise your hand
Yeah.
and ask the dumb question everyone that the teacher was just talking about. But if he didn't bring it off, it could be the best question.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would give, I guess, for my
that's-
tool.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good one.
That's great.
a good one.
Warn people about that in the future.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, it's probably better you
No,
did.
we like to put them on. We
No,
like to
it's
put you
good.
guys on the spot on
It's
that one.
funny.
So yeah. No, that was
right.
great. I mean, it was perfect. Exactly what we were looking for. So
Oh, gotcha.
Cheers.
Awesome.
I know you got to empty
Cheers.
glass, but
Cheers, boys. Okay. Cheers, boys.
thank you, Brian.
Thank you for having
Thanks
me. I
for-
appreciate it.
appreciate
No,
you.
Yeah, it
this
was
is
awesome.
awesome. Very cool.